Hello, best of listeners, and welcome to the best real estate investing advice ever show. I'm Theo Hicks, and today I'm speaking with David Dodge. David, how are you doing today?
Hey, Theo, I'm doing great, man. Thank you for having me. I'm grateful for your time, and let's talk some real estate, buddy. Let's do it.
Hey, let's do it. I appreciate you joining us. Looking forward to it. So before we talk real estate, let me give you your biographical information really quickly. So he's the founder of House Sold Easy. He's a full-time investor and author of The Ultimate Guide to Wholesaling Real Estate. He has 15 years of real estate experience, and his team has wholesaled over 500 houses, and he personally owns 60 rentals. He is based in St. Louis, and you can say hi to him at his podcast, which is Discount Property Investor. So, David, do you mind telling us a little bit more about your background and what you're focused on today?
I would be happy to. So my background is in sales and marketing. Basically, out of college, I had sales and marketing jobs. I started investing in real estate when I was really young. I was about 20. But for the first 10 years, so of the last, I have 15 years of experience, right? The first 10, I was very passively investing. I was paying retail for houses. I was getting loans, putting down 20%. Getting them on the MLS, and I was just renting them out. It's basically just a way for me to park cash. I've never really been good at saving money, Theo. So I just figured, this is going to be a good way for me to basically put savings on autopilot. So I would save a little bit to be able to buy something. And again, over the first 10 years, I maybe bought one house a year or one every other year, and got about 9 houses in the first 10 years, all as rentals, retail. Paid retail for all of them, had loans. The first couple, I didn't even have the money to get to buy it. I would borrow the 20% from family or friends, and then even get co-signers, right? Just to get in the game and then pay people back over time. So to speed things up and not bore everybody, the last 5 years, basically about 5 years ago, I learned this thing called wholesaling. And I learned that there's like these people out there that are motivated to sell. Like, who would have ever thought, right? And that you don't have to pay retail for properties, and you can do all this creative stuff to control properties and flip houses with none of your own money. Like, it sounds crazy and like an infomercial, and like, you can do it, none of your money. You can do it. Well, that's the case. It's so true. Now, the catch and the caveat that nobody wants to tell you until they're ready to sell you the $30,000 program is that it costs money to get the leads. But doing the deal is actually none of your own money typically, right? But the leads don't come free. They don't just fall in your lap. So you have to spend money to get these leads. But if you can create a business that markets well to find these people, these leads are very, very lucrative. So that's basically what I've been up to the last 5 years. When I learned about wholesaling and started doing deals, I quit all my jobs doing sales and marketing, and I went full time. In the last 15 to 18 months, we took our portfolio from about 15 to 65 using a method called the Bur Method. So what we do is we do a lot of marketing, and then we keep the best deals for ourselves, and we flip them as fix and flips or add them to our portfolio. And we just wholesale everything else that either doesn't make sense for us or maybe has a quick, 10, 15K to help fund other projects. So we do a lot of all of it. So currently you got about 65 rentals, wholesaling 8 to 10 a month on average, sometimes more, sometimes less. And we have anywhere from, 8 to 15 projects going on. Some of those are fix and flip. Some of those are fix, rent, refi, repeats, the Burs. But we still have to fix them in order to do that process. So that's kind of what I do. I'm full-time at it. I love helping people and teaching people that this is possible and that you can flip houses with little to no money. I do make it very direct and transparent, though, that you have to spend time or money to get these leads, though. Those cost time or money, and that's it, period, or both. But once you get them, you can get really creative. And like you said, I wrote a book called The Ultimate Guide to Wholesale Real Estate, which really teaches everything you need to know about wholesaling, how it works. And we just published our second book, Theo, called The Bur Method. And it's about building a rental empire with nothing out of pocket. We've essentially added 100 doors to our portfolio. I count properties when I say 65, but we've added about 100 doors to our portfolio in the last 15 months. And we've averaged about $1,200 property. So maybe about 40 to 45 properties in total. And our averages are getting lower and lower to where hopefully they'll be at a net zero soon when we're buying these properties. So that's kind of who I am and, what I do and stand for, my man. Thanks for having me.
No, yeah, thanks for sharing that. There's a lot of different directions we can go. The first thing I want to ask you, so when you're wholesaling, are you doing the assigning the contract or do you do the double close?
Whatever makes the most sense. To me, it doesn't matter because you got to close it regardless to get paid. So ideally we'll assign, but then again, if there's a large spread in there and that we think that may deter the buyer or cause any problems, then we'll double close. We have a really good relationship with 3 or 4 title companies in town, and they dry fund our deals for us. So we don't even need to bring, money to the table to purchase. And you don't have to either. There's ways around it. Some title companies in states and, attorneys or whatnot, they may require transactional funding, but you don't even need it if you know the right people. So just make a relationship with those people. And that's kind of how we do it. So we do both, to answer your question.
So you're saying that the assigning contract, obviously you don't need to bring any money, but if you double close, so the title company will like front you the money to close, and then you pay them back once the person,
so you never even get the money. You never even get the money. They hold it, but they'll use the end buyer's money to purchase it and then transfer the title simultaneously and then give you the difference. So yes, that's called a double close dry fund. That's what we refer to it as.
And you mentioned that
double close and you need the money, then you'd have to either bring your own money or get a transactional lender to come in for an hour or a day or whatever it is. But again, you don't need it. We can do these dry funded double closes. That's correct. Pretty cool.
Yeah, that's cool. So you said that ideally you do the assigning the contract. But so when would you have to do a double close? As opposed to assigning.
I'm selling it to a buyer that can't buy it on an assignment because of their lender. Sometimes the lenders want to see the seller take possession and not wholesale. So, that happens sometimes. Other times, if we have a large spread, let's say I buy a property for 20 and I sell it for 40. Well, it's okay to pay the extra $800 in closing fees. That's the total basically, to not let the seller know that you're making that amount of money because it may deter them and make them not want to execute that thing. So assignments are great. You don't have any cost, but there's pros and cons with both ways. So the pros with the double close would be that you can conceal the profits, at least for a couple of weeks. And it also helps your top line, not your bottom line, your top line on your taxes, if you can show large amounts of money coming in and out of your business, which helps later in the process of getting loans, which you may need for the Bur Method, right? So all this kind of ties together. So double closes actually help my financials and my tax statements because they can see $5, $7, $10 million worth of real estate come in to my wholesale business and then go out the very same day with profits on it, right? So those are some of the advantages of a double close. The cons are just the cost, anywhere from $800 to $2,000 typically to double close a deal. Hopefully you can do it for less. An assignment, you have pros of no cost. That's basically the only pro, right? You have to disclose your entire agreement, and that assignee has to step into your shoes to fulfill whatever you agreed with the seller. Great option. Pro is, no cost, but the con with an assignment is you have to be 100% transparent right away and let them know. If I buy a property for $2,000 and sell it for 20, do you think that the buyer is going to be cool with me getting 18 grand? Not typically, right? So just pay $800 to disclose that or to hide it, and it's good. As long as they see the deal at the closing table, it doesn't matter what your profits are. And that's really the reason why we have the option and we choose what works best at the current time. More money isn't always better, especially when it comes to real estate deals, like more money isn't better. Like people say, well, Dave, how do you choose what you do with the deals that come in, right? We do tons of marketing, and I keep the best and sell the rest. I said it earlier, But the best doesn't necessarily mean that I'm going to make 60 grand if it takes me 8 months. If I can make 23,000 next Tuesday, hey, that's best right now. So it's not always biggest, it's best. So we keep the best deals for ourselves and we just wholesale everything else out, right? So that's kind of the difference in what we do.
What is your, well, first of all, I never heard a wholesaler talk about the top line that you mentioned before, because that was interesting.
That's because most
thanks for sharing
wholesalers
that.
don't have 65 rental properties and have studied the Bur Method and mastered it, right? In order to do the Bur Method, there's 2 things that you have to have that are really, really, really important. You have to be bankable, for one, because you can't refi out. If you can't refi out, the strategy is totally broken. You're going to end up getting stuck with properties that you bought using hard or private money at a high interest rate, and you're going to be stuck with them if you can't pay those people back. So you got to be bankable. And the second thing is you have to add the value, and you do so by buying at a discount and increasing the value by rehabbing. And those basically three things, but those 3 things are needed to do it. So yes, adding to the top line helps your financial statement. It's going to help you be bankable. Most people don't think of that at all, right? Because it's not really doing anything but just creating a little bit more work of having to manage that. The profits are the same, right? But you can actually use that to your advantage to show that your business is creating millions of dollars of revenue, when in fact, you're not even using any of your own money to do it. So there's so many advantages. But yes, absolutely. I love that you touched on that, because that's not rarely talked about.
It's not. Yeah. So even if I'm not using my own money to do the double closes, right? Whether it's the title company funding those funds, it still counts as if I did that transaction.
100%. Last year we wholesaled a deal that was 700 grand. We made 30,000 on it. We put $100 into escrow as earnest money. So our total cost was 100. It came back too, right? But yes, and then we had credit of buying and selling the house at 700,000.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. Now that's top line. It's 700 grand cost, and then you have the income of 730 in this example. So 30 grand is what hits the bottom line either way. Even if it's an assignment, you still get 30 grand on the bottom, basically, right? So why not add those numbers to the top and help your business look like a professional business that it is?
Yeah. All right. So you mentioned in the beginning, you mentioned multiple times the importance of the lead. So maybe tell us, 'cause I'm sure you're doing a bunch of different things. What is you're doing 8 to 10 deals per month on average. What would be the number one lead source for those deals? So what lead generating strategy do you use that results in the most closed deals?
Okay, so this is crazy because I actually give this all away for people, and I tell people exactly what I do, and I've even built a course on it that I'd love to give to the people for free. But it's so simple. And I have several students right now that are crushing it with the same approach. So we use PropStream and we drive for dollars. So we build our own lists and we purchase lists. We go after vacants, we go after absentee owns, we go after high equities. We analyze our market though. So we're not just blanket marketing. We're looking for deals in areas that could be great fix and flips, or they could be great rentals, because that's basically what you wholesale to, right? You wholesale to an investor that's going to do one of those 2 things. So we find the areas and analyze via PropStream how to find those areas, and then we pull those lists, or we'll drive for dollars. Our best 3 deals came from driving for dollars at this point, 1 over 6 figures. And then what we do is we cold call and we cold text these individuals. Occasionally we'll send mail, but that's it. That's the whole system. We cold call and we cold text. Occasionally we'll send mail, right? And that's basically all of the list dependent marketing that we do. We also do some non-list dependent marketing, which is just a small radio budget of $2,000 a month. That's it. Nothing crazy. But we are on the radio, which brings in a wide net as well. So just another approach. And then we'll do bandit sign campaigns from time to time. But typically that's like maybe once a quarter, and we'll put out like 600 of them. So it's like, enough to kind of get out to where they stick around in some places for a couple weeks. But that's about it, right? So most of it, 80-20 principle here, right, Theo? is skip tracing from lists that we create or we export out of our system and cold call or cold text those individuals. And we're relentless. And that's really what it comes down to. If they tell us to quit calling, we will. But if we can't get a hold of them, then we're going to keep trying. We're going to call them. We're going to text them. We're going to, eventually maybe send a letter to them. We do a lot of driving to people's houses and knocking on their doors if there's a huge spread on a deal that we see that, is just ready to be grabbed.
And what about your buyer's list? How are you
So
creating
the
your
buyer's list, we have a buyer's list, but lately we've been pivoting kind of more of listing as many deals as we can on the MLS. And we're finding that we can get those deals sold for more. So we have a pretty adequate list here in St. Louis where we do our investing. It's maybe 4,000 or 5,000 buyers. One time it was like 14, but we've just kind of tried to clean it up and get the junk off of there. I'd like to cut it in half even more because just less is more. I want the real buyers, not the tire kickers. But honestly, having a buyer's list is great and all, but nowadays with Facebook Marketplace and Facebook groups, you can sell deals just as easily by posting in there if you're active, as you can as, blasting out an entire list, via email or text message. Obviously these are strategies that we use on both sides. So we do all of this, but, ideally we'll have 3 or 4 buyers in a zip code that we know either want rentals or rehabs. And then when we get a deal, we can call that individual person and not have to mess with entire blasts. I like to get away from the blasts because it just creates more work when you sell a deal right away. And then you have 35 people that want to see it and it's sold, so it just depends on what you're doing. But if you're new, Craigslist, Facebook Marketplace, local Facebook groups will get deals sold. Having a buyer's list is obviously going to help as well. But it's not anything that, you can't create. I have students right now that are finding deals by downloading lists from PropStream, cold calling or cold texting them. And then once they get them under contract, they're going into PropStream and they're pulling cash buyers list within that zip code and cold calling and cold texting the cash buyers that they don't even know, cold, saying, hey, I just got a property under contract. I see you bought one down the street last year. Do you have any interest? And he's done 2 to date, made about 17 grand. Just doing that strategy right there. That's it. That's exactly what he's doing. So, it's not necessary. I like to look at it this way. Wholesaling is so incredibly simple, but it's not easy. Those are 2 different things. It's hard because you got to trade time or money to get these leads. You got to trade time by answering or by, operating the cold calling dialers or the texting platforms and searching the leads and skip tracing them and going and looking at them, or you have to spend money to pay someone else to do that, and or do marketing like direct mail or the radio, where it's just kind of an automated process, but phone starts, the calls start coming to you. So the difference is it outbound marketing or is it inbound? And of course we like to do both. But our monthly budget for marketing, isn't crazy. It used to be like 12 to 15 grand. I know people that are spending 30, 50, 60,000 a month. It's awesome if they're crushing it, but we are able to scale our marketing back to maybe 4,000 a month, sometimes less, sometimes 3,500. And the amount of deals that we are still doing compared to when we were spending 10, 12, 15 is about 60 to 70% with, a fourth, a fifth of the ad spend. So, sometimes again, bigger isn't better, right? When I say best, it doesn't mean that's the biggest or the big spread. It just means what is more efficient, what is needed now, So that's just kind of where I come from. So yeah, inbound marketing, outbound marketing. I think your question was about cash buyers. We can pull those lists. We generate these things in real time on every deal that we're selling. Whenever people see our marketing, we watermark our photos and we have a website, so they come in and we're getting opt-ins to that list, every day, sometimes every hour. But typically, if you're new, and that's the thing, most people listening to these podcasts don't own 65 rental properties and have wholesale 500 deals. They're looking to do their first deal, right? So it's so incredibly simple. You just got to put in the time, right? So doing deals doesn't cost any money if you do it right. And I love teaching it. But getting the leads does. It costs time or money, one of the two, and most of the time, both. if you're willing to put in the time or the money to get these leads, you can make a tremendous amount of money doing it.
All right, David, you ready for the best ever lightning round?
Let's go.
All right, first, a quick word from our sponsor. Okay, David, what is the best ever book you've recently read?
The best ever book I've recently read is I like Relentless by Tim Grover. I'm not even into sports, but that book just kind of gives you the mindset of those who are ultra successful, like in what they do to earn it and get it, and they earn it. So Relentless by Tim Grover. It's a great book, motivational book, mindset book.
If your business were to collapse today, what would you do next?
I started another one that does the exact same thing I do now. I would get PropStream, I would get a dialer and maybe a texting service, and I would just start searching for motivated sellers, and I would be back in business in 15 hours.
Tell us about the best deal you've done. Remember, best, as you said, doesn't mean the most money, but it could be.
Yeah, I mean, I'd say the best deal we did was we bought a house for $2,000, driving for dollars, and we sold it for $132,000 to the city. Took us about 18 months to do the deal because we were basically working with FEMA and the city, and it was a flooded house that had a buyout coming, but the seller was motivated and didn't want to wait. They knew that money was coming, but they needed money today, and they took $2,500. They didn't think it was going to be worth 120, neither did we, but it ended up appraising. And yeah, we made about 118 grand on that deal. That was awesome. Invested 2,500. So again, we had a little bit in it, but we had to actually close on this one, right? That's why there was money invested versus having to double close or assign. We took possession, but it was a wholesale the whole way. Like, we had no intentions of keeping it. We were waiting it out.
What is the best ever way you'd like to give back?
Man, I have free courses that I give people for free. So if you want to learn how to wholesale real estate, go to freewholesalecourse.com. If you want to learn how to become a landlord and use the Bur Method, go to freelandlordcourse.com. These courses are probably between 4 and 6 hours in length, and it's everything I do in my business, and I give it away. People charge $1,000 for courses like this. Mine's free. freelandlordcourse.com and freewholesalecourse.com. On top of that, I do a podcast, which, as you guys know, you're hearing me on one. And that's a Discount Property Investor podcast. And again, we just talk about our business, the deals that we're doing, the creative things that we do daily, the houses that we're buying with the Bur strategy and how that whole process works. We love giving back, Theo. And I want to thank you for having me on today, just so I can have the opportunity to teach people how amazing real estate investing really is.
Yeah, well, we appreciate you coming on the show as well. And I guess you answered my last lightning round question, which is,
what was it?
Best ever place to reach you. You gave us your 2 websites for the free courses as well as your podcast. So
that's
David,
it. Really, so guys, if you go on the free course, either one, you can actually reach out to me via text. There's numbers that are on those pages directly, and I answer those questions throughout the day. I probably have about 1,200 people at this point that I'm in communication with, and it's not necessarily coaching, but I send out tips and tricks. And if you have a specific question that only takes me a minute to answer, I got you.
Well, David, thank you for coming on the show today and telling us about your wholesaling process. So I mean, the biggest takeaway for me was, and something that I had not heard of before, was, as I've already mentioned, the adding to your top line by doing that double sale that allows you to, double close, that allows you to be more attractive to banks.
Yeah, just give your HUDs to your accountant. That's all you got to do, so they can show the money flow. It doesn't have to be in your account or not, though. It's in your business name, and there's a title showing the transfer of title with you on it, like in the chain of title. So yeah, absolutely. Just give that to your accountant, and boom, you'll be getting loans in no time, guys.
Yeah. And then we also talked about how you create leads. So mentioned PropStream, and that wasn't just on the front end, but you also mentioned the back end. You've got some of your clients who.
Isn't that awesome, Theo? Isn't that cool? Like, obviously, we know that they do motivated seller leads. We know they do cash buyers. But like one of my students literally has that and a dialer, and that's it. That's all he's doing. And he got a deal in just a couple of days from cold calling some people. He found a motivated seller in a neighborhood and just never even went to the property and said, hey, I can't pay you what you're asking, but I can give you X. And he said, I'll do it. And then he literally went in the same day, PropStream exported some cash buyers in that area, made 4 or 5 phone calls. People were looking at the property that day. And the next morning he had a contract on it. I think he made $7,000 on that deal.
Heck yeah. Well,
and it's awesome. So yes, I mean, that is just one approach. Obviously there's lots of approaches, but why I mentioned that and I highlighted it a second time, and I'm glad you brought it up, is because it really is that simple. Didn't say easy though, guys, simple. He put in a lot of time making all those calls and prospecting, and he sent the offer. Did you send an offer today? Probably not. Travis, how many offers have you sent today? 2? I've sent 3. That's how you get deals done. You got to send offers. But he did, and then that's how it works. So, yeah. Theo, thank you for having me again, man. I really appreciate you.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I appreciate it as well. And best of listeners, make sure you check out those free trainings. Make sure you check out his podcast. And until tomorrow, have the best ever day.